This video is an introduction to sectors and industries. We're going to explain what each term means, what's the difference between the two, and we'll look at some examples of each. We're going to keep things nice and simple, but if you watch to the end of the video, you should end up with quite a nice rudimentary understanding of the difference between sectors and industries. Hello, I'm Peter Martin with Trading 212, and we add educational videos about trading and investment to YouTube regularly. If you click on the subscribe button and the alarm bell icon, then you'll get a notification whenever we put out a new video and you won't miss out. So sectors and industries. These terms are sometimes used interchangeably, but there is a specific difference between the two. They're both ways of dividing the economy and the companies within it into different groupings, but a sector is a much broader category than an industry. So the basic idea is that the economy as a whole can therefore be divided up into these few broad areas that we call sectors. And then the sectors can be further subdivided into more specific groupings, and that's what we call industries. So very simply, as we were saying before, the economy or stock market as a whole can be divided up into this broadest tier to start off with, which is sectors. So these different groupings. There are actually more than I'm showing here. This is just a representation to show you how things break down. And then each sector can be subdivided further into this second tier of groupings, which we call industries. So all of these will broadly have some similarities that have caused them to be grouped within the umbrella of the sector in which they live. And then within each industry, you have the actual companies that will be much more similar to each other than the industries are above. So to give you an example, transportation is a sector. It's a pretty broad area. And then within the transportation sector, we have several industries. And these include trucking, railroads, airlines, water transportation, air couriers, and so on. So let's look at a few examples of some more sectors and the industries within them. So this is just to give you some examples of some sectors and industries. So this is a few sectors that exist. This isn't exhaustive. There are other sectors that exist. So there's technology or information technology, financials. Now, transportation and capital goods, strictly speaking, transportation and capital goods, along with commercial and professional services, are industry groups or subsectors. They live beneath the bigger umbrella of the industrials sector. But it's not uncommon for transportation or capital goods to be referred to as sectors themselves. Consumer staples, consumer discretionary, healthcare, utilities, energy. As I say, this isn't exhaustive. There are others, things like materials and real estate. And then let's just have a look at one of these sectors, the technology sector. Information technology is a huge portion in the US stock market, or the big cap end of the US stock market. It comprises about 1/5 of the S&P 500 by market capitalization. Within the sector, we have these industries: IT services, semiconductors, software, technology, hardware, storage, and peripherals. Those are just some of the industries within this sector. There are others, and then each of these industries would break down into companies that are very similar to each other. And then within each industry, we have a number of similar companies. Companies that operate in the same kind of areas, that cater to similar types of customer. So for example, within the technology sector, we have the semiconductors industry. And then within semiconductors, we have companies like Advanced Micro Devices, Intel, Micron Technology, NVIDIA. So what's the point of all this? Well, one point is that it's much easier to make comparisons between companies when we break things up this way. And that helps us to make investment decisions. For example, you might be looking, just to look at those companies we talked about, you might look at Advanced Micro Devices and be trying to work out, is this cheap or is it expensive? And one way you might look at that is to look at the price of the company in comparison to its sales. And then you need a yardstick to make that comparison. And the best way to make that comparison is with its peers, with companies that are very similar to Advanced Micro Devices that operate in the same field. So it would make more sense to make those kind of comparisons between Advanced Micro Devices and Intel and with Micron Technology than it would to make the comparison to JP Morgan, which operates in a completely different field and has different kind of sales margins. Also, having broad brush categories like sectors can be convenient for seeing at a glance how different chunks of the economy have been performing at any one time. So on a given day, you might be able to see that technology is the best performing sector, or for example, that transportation has been performing poorly. Also, different sectors can perform differently under different market conditions. For example, consumer discretionary is a cyclical sector. It tends to perform well at times of strength for the economy, but tends to perform poorly when the economy is in a downturn. Whereas consumer staples tends to be more constant. Spending in the areas for the companies that operate within that sector tend not to be affected by where we are in the business cycle. And fund managers may adjust their portfolios accordingly as market conditions change. Well, I hope you enjoyed this introduction to companies and sectors. If you did, please hit the thumbs up button and give us a like, or why not share your thoughts with us in the comment section. We do read each one. But that's all for now from me, Peter Martin, and Trading 212. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.